Well, this episode secured it. Janet is the most miserable person on all of TV in the history of time.
She's the worst, but I will say that this episode gave us a little bit more to laugh at, and I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. I'm not nearly as angry as I was last week.
Bros and shows. I gotta have me my bros and shows. Bros and shows. Bros and shows. I gotta have me my bros and shows.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Bros and Shows. I'm your co-host, Steele Russell, joined as always by the inevitable Magoots. What's up, dude?
All it took apparently was a good old-fashioned circle jerk to get everybody back together. God, I couldn't wait to say that.
Been sitting on that one since Tuesday. I don't know, dude. This show, man, what a wild ride this has been. And it's funny because in our comments, we have a lot of support for how we've been discussing this show. We posted a couple of reels that got a decent amount of views, and the vast majority of people concur with us. 3 people don't, and those 3 people decided to leave a review on our Apple account.
Oh, did they?
Yeah,
I didn't even
it's like,
see.
if you don't like the Valley, and stop watching. It's like, shut up, nerd. We have to
Stop
and
listening to us doing it, loser.
Yeah, if you have a problem with how we're covering it, then go away. But
I gotta read these.
we don't ask for these very often. We try not to be annoying. But if you're listening, then you love us. Go on to Apple Podcasts and leave us a little 5-star review. It helps us out tremendously, and it'll get rid of those idiots that have an issue with how we're approaching the Valley. Which, again, we have a lot of support with this angle. So
It's just Jax.
that's what it feels like. Like, read one of them.
These guys are so whiny. That's not even about the Valley. I guess we're just whiny bitches.
I mean, that's true.
Stop bashing the Valley. It's great TV. Stop reviewing this show like the cast are your relatives. What?
I know. It's wild.
Start reviewing it like it's a scripted show with great writing. What are we talking about here?
That's the craziest one.
God.
It's
Otherwise,
not a
you guys
scripted
are
show.
great. Okay.
And also, if you don't like, this is us being real. This is what this show is right now, and we're gonna always come from the angle of honesty. This is how we've always done it. It's how we always will do it. This show ain't it right now. I agree with you though. This episode was a little easier to just brush off and be like, holy shit.
Yeah. This show wasn't, or this episode rather, was not nearly as heavy because it wasn't so Jax oriented, and it didn't feel like it was heavily weighted on Jax is going to get some sort of redemption. Last week, it seemed like we were kind of going that direction. So, of course, we're going to call that out. I mean, we call that out anytime that a shitty guy or girl doesn't deserve a redemption. So
Correct.
If they start shoving some weird Janet redemption down our throats, that's going to be a problem as well, because she's a deplorable human being when it comes to this show. I have a theory about her, and it's not that crazy of a theory. She's got to just be a completely different person off the show, and she's got to be a completely different person before this show started recording. For everybody to go, for everybody to go to their confessionals and say, I just want Fun Janet back. We're like, where is Fun Janet? We don't know who that is. She seemed to have just changed her whole personality as soon as they started filming. I wouldn't, we're kind of too far gone for her to revert back for us to really trust it at this point, and that's of her own doing. But with this episode in particular, it was a lot easier to just kind of laugh things off and move forward and laugh at people that we don't like. And obviously, there are a lot of people on this show that we do like and support. It's just always going to come back to, will this show be able to survive another season if Jax is still here, if Janet and Jason are still here? I think if they tweak it a little bit, if you get rid of the duds, it still can be a really great show, and we can move forward, and we're back on track, and you can get 4 or 5 seasons out of it, which realistically speaking, I think that's what they would want. I don't think they expect this to go 10 seasons. It just doesn't seem like it's got the legs for that sort of thing.
And shit, and that's
and then
wacky.
And they're still expected to do the same shit that they were doing now, which is even crazy that they're doing it now. So yeah, I think when they started the show, they were looking at it 5, 6 seasons. If we really want to stretch it out, that could do it. And then maybe you have a couple of spinoffs where we see Kristen as a mom, when we see Nia and Danny's life, and it just becomes a little bit more lighter and a little bit more fun, and it's sort of like a quasi housewife show. That's Nia probably what they were thinking.
I agree, but Nia and Danny have a show built in, 4 Under 4.
Oh my god, yeah,
done. Put it on TLC, and you have a banger of a show. But I agree with you, and I think that this show's not lost. It's not I don't think
No.
it's screwed forever. I think you can right this ship. They need to bring in different production, different producers, and they need to go with a
Mhm.
different angle. They need to make it funny, make it fun again.
Just
Like
make it
stop being
funny.
so heavy.
And that is the thing. Obviously, you know, if you're one of those people that were listening to the last 2-3 episodes, really, we were telling you exactly what was wrong with the show. And we were
Sure.
saying that it doesn't look like it's going to change and that's going to doom the show. But that being said, we covered a lot of different shows where we just sat here simply throwing our hands in the air saying,
Fuck
I don't know
this.
where they go from here. And
Yeah.
that's where you lose us. That's where you lose the audience. And that's where you lose pretty much the entire plot of the show and where we're going to go. We've seen a lot of that. And usually it's a housewife show. And then they retool and they get rid of a couple housewives and just move on with their lives.
Mhm.
We're worried because the weird alternative for this show is, okay, this isn't working. This isn't working. This isn't working. Let's just hit the emergency button and bring in
Vanderpump.
Schwartz. Yeah, bring in Schwartz, Lala, Sheena, Brock. Like everybody just get involved. It's like, no. You need to listen to the audience. That's not what we wanted. That's why we stopped with VPR. It got too bad. So we moved on and we really like this show. So don't ruin this show with that. This show's not completely lost. We're just reading the writing on the wall. If you keep Jax in there and you let Janet and Jason do what they've been doing, which is producing and trying to do things, it's going to doom the show and you're going to have nothing at the end of next season. That's all we're saying. So if they do listen to our concerns and everybody else's concerns, it's not just us harping on this, listen to everybody's concerns about what we're watching and make the necessary changes. I don't know if you read the article that came out about Jax needs to get fired again. That was a pretty good article.
No, but it sounds right.
Yeah, it just kind of personified everything that we've been saying. So that's good. If they do that and they make the right moves, you do still have something here for a few more years that can be enjoyable and that we'll actually enjoy. They just have to make the right changes. So it's not entirely doomed. It's just where they're heading and the way that they're doing it. It seems like it can be doomed.
Yeah, and we're nervous because we love the show. So we're giving our thoughts and feelings on what could potentially help. As far as Janet goes, I have two takes on it. One, I do think that she shifted for the worst because of the show. I don't think we're getting a different Janet off screen as we are on screen. I think it's just a different Janet. But I also think that it depends on who you are, is the Janet that you know. Because multiple people on the show have said this has always been Janet. The people that are close to Janet, that were friends with Janet, are like, who is this Janet? I want old Janet back. So I
there's
think
somewhere in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah, I think this side's always been there if she doesn't like you. But I think that now everybody's getting it. Yeah.
Yeah. Everybody's, you're right. So I think you're right with the multiple people who have said this is the Janet that I've always known.
Correct.
I think
Like
we're getting
Zach,
that
Doute.
side 100% of the time instead of, except for the 1% of the time when she's at Dave & Buster's, which was the only enjoyable part of the season for Janet.
We gave her credit too.
We gave her credit for that one, but I think that she needs to find a better balance because she's completely just misfired, and she's not wrong. If your life is boring, you do need to play up a different side of yourself for TV.
But stop being such an asshole.
You just have to stop being such an asshole all the time. Be an asshole when it's appropriate. Be an asshole when it's really going to hit. You can't just take a bunch of shots and hope that one or two of them are going to stick, because we're just going to remember the 98 shots that you took that you missed. You're only shooting 2%. That's not good enough for us.
No, we need at least 10% from the floor at the very least. But she is a very low percentage shot right now. And it was kind of highlighted by this episode. And that's arguably why I didn't mind this episode, was just seeing how outlandish it is now. I'm like, all right, you're going to lose everybody now because your behavior is indefensible. And people are starting to like get fed up, and you're seeing reactions now where before it was like Janet goes on a tirade, Janet leaves, nothing happens. Now it's like, okay, people are starting to be like, fuck you and fuck this. Okay, cool. I'm on board to watch that.
I'm on board
cool
for
with
that.
Mia jumping in, Doute.
And it could help straighten out her behavior. Maybe it's, a little inauthentic, but it goes a long way for the viewer if you're able to push back on her and she has to reassess how she handles things. I don't care if it's fake. It's really, really tough to watch when she's doing that all the time. She just seems to be 0 to 100 with insults and going after people's marriages all the time. You can't do that. It's not enjoyable TV.
No, and it's hypocritical as shit. But let's jump in.
Yeah.
Luke and Doute are at home talking about their future plans and all that. They're both on the same page, and you can tell that these two, they're in it to win it. They are. This is real. I love seeing that they're both happy. The fact that Luke's like, I'm here forever. Like, so let's make this whole thing official. Obviously, we're getting ready to head to Maui for the big engagement. But we check in with Danny, Nia, Zach, and Benji, who are coordinating the engagement in Maui because everybody knows Detective Doute and everybody wants to keep her off the scent here. Zach almost blows it later, by the way,
Yeah.
which, come on, bro. Like, you can't be throwing hints out there to Jasmine. Now Jasmine's asking questions. That's keep it close to the chest, pal. Like, what are we doing? Hints? No hints are needed. But I guess Zach
can't help
sniffed it out
himself
too. I know, and he also sniffed it out where he was like, "You're acting different, Luke. Like, what's going on?" And he figured out this whole thing. But the big question is, how do we invite Janet and Jason? Who's going to bite the bullet and do that?
You would think, and they did have the blueprint for how they were going to invite Kristen to her own engagement, and they had that kind of squared away, and it looks like it's pretty much working. Obviously, like you said, Zach kind of sniffed it out, and I would not trust Zach with any secret ever. He looks like the type of guy that, and he's incredibly nice, but he looks like the type of guy who's just bursting at the seams as soon as
he gets too excited.
He's too happy. And like, yes, I want you to be excited for me, but Jesus, dude, just keep a lid on it. Like,
yeah, chill, bro. Like the hint of like something big's happening, but I can't tell you. Like something big's happening, but I can't tell you. It's like, that's too much. That right there.
But this is the right approach when it comes to Janet and Jason. We said this last year. You can't disinvite or uninvite people who are going on a cast trip. I don't give a shit if it's for your baby moon. I don't care if it's for Kristen's engagement. It's a cast trip. Now, there's one person that absolutely cannot go. He says it's of his own accord. It is not, for sure. But there's one person that can't go, and that's fine. But when it comes to Janet and Jason, yes, there's beef going on. I'm going to be an equal opportunist here and say, you can't just look at these two on the cast, go on a cast trip and say, no, you guys have to stay home. They do need to be there. So this is the right approach.
It 100% was. But I thought even in this moment that Luke was going to give it away because the instant that they invite them to Hawaii, he's like, woo. I'm like, ruminate for a sec. Oh, yeah, Hawaii, interesting. He's just like, yeah. I'm like, okay.
I disagree with that, actually. I think that he's always been kind of awkward, and obviously this is for the cast.
Keep it awkward?
Keep it awkward. Okay. Yeah, that's how Kristen sees it. That's definitely how it's going to have to keep.
Till I die. I don't want him to give it up. That's all. Okay, I see your approach.
He almost gave it up later, but yeah.
Let's get to the Louis Ruelas men's group. They're meeting together at, I don't know whose house this was. Yeah, the Warrior group.
It was Jesse.
And it's Jesse, Scott, the life coach, who's getting a whole lot of screen time. Is he a friend of at this juncture?
He must be. He's got to be getting paid. Do you think he's just in it for like free publicity, free marketing, or do you think he's actually getting paid by Bravo?
Both.
Oh man.
At a certain point, if you're on screen X amount of times, I feel like that is an issue if you're not paid.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know the rules.
I don't know. The way this guy's brain works, though, he's probably like, me as a man, I'm not going to go to Bravo and ask them to pay me. I'm going to be here, and when they offer, then I'll sit down at the table. I need to know my worth as a man. Like, that's probably how his brain works.
Yeah, that wouldn't be surprised, but it's the whole dudes group, and you get a montage of all the shit that's popped off this season. There's a lot of people at fault here. Okay, a lot of guys have gotten into bullshit that probably didn't need to happen. They've been rude to each other. Shit's a little chaotic. Obviously, I feel like Jack set the tone for the whole group. Not that I'm actually not placing blame on him here. I'm
Jack
just
set
saying
a bar that no one else can get to. So all of the dumb,
right,
bad shit that others have done, they're like, at least I'm not Jack's.
Exactly. Like, it could be so much worse, but he set this bar so high that other people are following. So it's just messy. They're all being messy, and it's starting to boil over. So they're trying to solve this whole thing. Jax, again, and he's going to do this every time, is trying to get the sympathy card. He keeps saying, it's a lot. I just got to rehab. I got served with papers. It's like, all that's of your own doing. So I don't feel bad for you at all. So just shut the hell up. But we're going to do an exercise. You're going to put your hand on my chest. And let me say before we get into this whole thing, and you know me, I'm a big advocate for men being emotional and talking about their feelings and being open with one another. I think it's important. This was comical. I couldn't take this seriously. It's like all these idiots and like, put your hand on my chest and you're going to say, you did this and it made me feel this. Okay, cool. Luke and Jesse, let's go.
God.
The problem with this is you have a bunch of narcissistic men who won't take accountability. So Luke and Jesse go. And Jesse's upset because of your blind loyalty to your soon-to-be fiance made me really mad. and I was angry, and it made me feel angry, and I'm gonna let that go. Oh, thanks. Like,
I don't think this was fucking real. I really don't. I think that this was because one, this happened so long ago. Two, you've been so much worse to your wife or your ex-wife at this point that all of the things that like predated that should be null and void. We shouldn't still be thinking or talking about it. And I even in a weird way, I don't even think like Jesse really wanted to do this. I feel like this was hey, we all kind of have to go and be involved. Otherwise, why are we all here?
and it's my house. And
how do we figure it out the best way to get the two of you involved who seemingly don't really have a whole lot of issues going on with the other guys in the group? All right, why don't you guys just do this? And we know that Jesse and Luke have become friends over the last couple of months, even to a year. So it's sort of like a throwaway. Like, all right, what can we do here? Let's just kind of the way that Luke was looking is like, all right, like
because it's not Luke's. It's like, okay, you guys were barking at my girlfriend, like they were yelling at Doute. He stands up for Doute, and you have a problem with quote unquote blind loyalty to. That's how it's supposed to be, friend. Like behind closed doors, Luke can be like, and he does. Behind closed doors, he questions Kristen, and he's like, "Hey, we can't do that."
We even told him to stop doing it in confessionals. Like, dude, just do it to her face behind closed doors when it's just the two of you and the camera. Fine, but for your own safety and sanity, don't go on the confessional by yourself and start saying that she was wrong.
No,
don't do it to her face. It's okay.
Say it to her face, but like that's my whole point. But he exemplifies what being a good partner is in the moment because, of course, you take her side blindly, and then later you're like, "Yo, what the fuck was that?" But in person, you obviously do. But Jesse has an issue with that. He's like, I'm willing to let that go. It's like, oh, thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, dude.
I think it's so funny because it's so hypocritical. Jesse also did the same thing for Michelle, who he suspected was cheating on him at the time. And Kristen brought it to light. He then was a blind, loyal member of the Michelle party and made sure that he stood up for his wife. So that's actually more difficult if you really did think that your wife was cheating on you and you were still blindly supporting her. That's the same thing. It's actually much deeper than what Luke was doing. So
but he's willing to let
that's why I was like, he's willing to let it go. And you know what? We should be willing to let it go.
I'm willing to let it go.
We can figuratively put our hands on each other's chests and we can let it go together, buddy. Let's just go ahead. There we go.
If you're
I
not
do feel
YouTube,
a lot better.
You really missed out. I do too. I feel like this is a better energy this episode. But let's get to Jax because he goes and he starts crying and he does the usual, I'm angry and I take it out on others, blah, blah, blah. And you could argue that these are genuine feelings because he is crying the minute that he steps up. But again, my issue with all of this,
that he didn't put his hand on Scott's chest.
That's it. That's my only issue. Yep, that's all. No, the fact that again, like they're showing this scene in an attempt to garner sympathy and empathy for Jax Taylor. And it's like, you gotta stop. Like, I don't care. I don't feel bad for him in this moment because again, everything that he's saying is all his own doing and he's still not taking accountability. Every chance he gets, he's still placing blame. You guys didn't visit. She didn't do this. You didn't do that.
I talked about it last week. I think I'm going to, for my own well-being, start looking at it like the producers, which is just simply not true knowing these producers, but I'm going to start thinking that they're showing us this so that we can laugh at him and we can ridicule him.
Okay.
Like it's almost like, I don't even want to, I can't even go as far to say that they're holding him accountable for his actions because they're not at all. Bravo as a whole is not. But for my own well-being, I'm going to choose to think that they're showing us this to show us how big of a piece of shit he is and how much he's not taking ownership. Because even in this moment, all he's talking about is a woe is me moment. Like, I'm going through so much right now and I just don't know how to handle it. That might be true, but all of it is your own doing. And until you actually own up to the things you've done to Brittany, in lieu of going to see your son, which you still haven't seen yet because you've been out of rehab for a week at this point, and you're still not making an effort. All of those things are your own doing. So no one should feel bad for you in this moment. Like, we don't have to go overboard and just like completely bash them. Nobody should feel bad for you at this point, because what are you doing? And again, the exercise is to put your hand on the man's chest. And you're not even, the whole thing is to let things go with one person individually. And you're making this a group moment and a whole like population moment.
A life
Everybody
moment.
In the world just is wishing on my downfall and I'm going through a really tough time. You need to at least put your hand out. You got to feel those emotions. You got to feel everything.
Scott's chest. Damn
Scott is symbolic of the whole world.
Well, then fucking Scott's like, everyone's so proud of you. I'm proud of you. You're doing everything. That's like, shut up. Shut
That's
up. You don't
the
even
shit
know
that
what's going
Jason's
on.
been spewing for the last couple episodes. It's like,
I
dude,
know.
fucking
And
get
like,
a grip.
we're
Where's your
gonna
brain?
empathize with Jax, but we're gonna throw Danny under the bus again because in this scene, Danny and Jason go, and obviously there's some things there that they need to sort out. And I like that when Danny's saying his side of things, he's not saying I shouldn't have said this. He's saying the setting wasn't right. Like I shouldn't have done it there. And
It's
I
the
think
same as
that's an
his
important
apology text.
distinction, which
Yeah.
is important because I agree.
Stand on
It's
business.
like Janet's going to push you over the edge and you react, and then they both act like you're a crazy alcoholic that just spouts off shit, which is not true. So in this scene, Jason's not in a place to let it go. Okay, Jason. And
fuck off.
here's my thing, because Jason's big issue is like the stuff you said about my wife, blah, blah, blah. Jason, two people in your life that you thought you were the closest to, Jasmine, Danny, have said identical things about your wife. And yet your wife is not at fault in the slightest. You're going, I get this goes back to the blind loyalty thing in person. Sure.
Maybe that's why they did it.
Maybe, but like the whole thing, you look at it from like a third party perspective. It's like, brother, what do you want here? Because you're mad at these people, but at the same time, they've both said the same thing in the same experience with your wife on two separate issues. The funniest part being, Janet keeps holding on to this ass grabbing thing. The two people that are mad at Janet are Jasmine and Danny, who were involved in the ass grabbing incident, who have moved on from it. So when he wants to get all up in arms and not move forward, and he brings up Danny's drinking, or I guess Jesse brings up the drinking and the hiding of it. And I agreed that the hiding is a problem. And when Scott gets more into it, and he's like, are you going to the bar and saying you had one drink, but you're having three? And Danny's like, yeah. It's like, okay, so that's kind of problematic as well.
Yeah.
But what happens is not what needs to happen, because the group starts attacking Danny and his drinking. It's like, no. For multiple reasons, this is the wrong approach. Because if Danny really does have an issue with alcohol, and I would agree that his relationship with alcohol needs to be addressed a little bit. I wouldn't go as far to call him an alcoholic.
Right.
But he should be a little more introspective on what's going on with the booze.
For sure.
What we don't need is a bunch of idiots that also have weird relationships with alcohol sitting there together and condemning what he's doing and acting like he's such a bad person, because what that does to somebody that's struggling with alcohol is push them closer to alcohol. So we don't need this group to be the AA group for Danny, because that's a disaster waiting to happen. And all of these guys are jumping on. And at the end of the day, I figured it out. And I think you've known this. I've known this for a while, but it's becoming more and more evident. Everyone in the group is jealous of Danny and Nia. Everybody's jealous of their relationship, their marriage, they're happy, they're successful, all of these things. And they're not really dealing with the same fallout that the rest of the group has to deal with, because when shit pops off, they go behind closed doors and they handle business and have a conversation. They're not having moments like Janet and Jason where everyone's like, this person sucks, you suck, this sucks. So now that they have the opportunity to kind of jump on Danny because of the alcohol, because of the issue with Jasmine, they're taking the most advantage of it and pouring on as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, that's exactly what they're doing. And Danny, as much as I want him to stand 10 toes down and not do any of this, it's not the right time and it's not the right setting. It could be the right time if there were the right people there.
If he had one supporter, if Zach was there supporting him,
that's exactly what I was thinking, because Luke does feel the same way, but Luke has a lot going on, as we find out later in the episode, and we already know that
he's dealing with a lot.
He's dealing with a lot right now. He's not in a place to really stand up and do that. We've seen Jesse kind of play the middleman a little bit, if not leaning towards the Danny, what are you doing type of situation.
He's leaning on Jax's side more than anything.
And Jax is going to blow up, and it's going to give Jax an opportunity to just push his own fucking bullshit onto somebody else. So it's not going to work here. And Danny can't hold his own. Danny is not like other people in the group that can hold their own. You do need to do it in a setting where Zach's there, where, Nia's there. She's starting to get her ground. Kristen's there. She can stand up for you. So there's certain situations where it can work, but this is not the time to do it. So I do like that he at least does his own version of that by pretty much just doing the same thing that he did in his apology text, if you want to call it that. Not saying, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that. Saying it wasn't the right time, it wasn't the right place, I let things kind of get ahead of me, and blah, 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 whatever it might be. And he's not really reactionary towards all the drinking comments. he's just kind of letting it roll off because
It was good.
honestly,
it was better that he just bit the bullet there.
yeah, just bite the bullet because in this setting, nothing's going to get done. And the cards are stacked against you. I mean, who the fuck is this guy, Scott?
I don't understand why.
We're all going to sit down. We're going to kiss. We're going to circle jerk. And then everybody's going to feel better. We'll have that post-nut clarity and then we can kind of get through it. So I think that's pretty much what Scott's doing. That's his lesson here. But yeah, as much as I want Danny to stand up for himself, can't do it here.
Not the right setting. You're right. Meanwhile, Sheena and all the girls get together for
God.
This is Janet. This scene is Janet.
Yep.
Is the best way I can say it. Everyone's out to a Mexican restaurant. They even separate accordingly. Like, that's the thing that you'll notice about Doute and Nia. If they don't want to be involved with the issues or the drama, they will attempt to separate from the drama. They sit all the way at the other end of the table, just those two, and they're kind of talking amongst themselves. They're just like, this shit with Janet sucked, blah, blah, blah. Nia goes to a confessional. She's like, yeah, Jen and I are definitely not good. And she is starting to get, catty's not the right word because that implies that she's in the wrong. She's starting to stand up for herself in a way that we really haven't seen. And those are the things that can make this show better. It's like, all right, people are starting to get activated. Right. And we've kind of been waiting for that moment. So to see it finally boil over and her, I was nervous that when she would, every time she gets into an altercation, would get too emotional and cry just because she's such a nice person. I'm not saying like, oh, she's so emotional. I'm just saying she's nice and doesn't like this kind of stuff.
It's just
she's starting to hold her own.
She is starting to hold her own. And you really do have to be a special type of asshole to push somebody who is as nice as Nia is to this breaking point.
I know.
To this point where she's got some sort of realization of, you know what, I am strong enough to hold my own against this asshole. I am going to say some things. Yes, she's going to cry at the end, but every time that she does it, she cries a little bit less. She gets a little stronger. So what you're doing is just setting her up for a good practice round where once we hit that major, and we're going to see that in Hawaii, I'm sure. She's going to be able to stand her own, and she's not going to be emotional. She's not going to break down. She's not going to be fucking hammered.
She's starting to build walls, which is also not good.
Which is also not very good. But it is pushing her to a point that we never really thought that we'd see her, and I'm sure she didn't see herself getting to that point. But you do have to have some sort of self-defense mechanisms when you're going up against somebody like Janet, who's just relentless. And then her apologies mean absolutely nothing. So it's good to see. I'm a little worried for her personal life,
just because.
But
she's
it's
so
good
nice
to see for the show, and this is why we've said that Nia and Danny do need to run away. But it is good to see from the show perspective because we can't keep letting Janet get away with this. She's not involved in these things. You're just you're implicating yourself just for yourself to have a storyline, for yourself to be important, and it's just so fucking tiring. So she does need to get bopped as much as possible. And she is power hungry. And I don't know what happened. She got drunk with power at some point. You're
literally drunk.
Actively going to drag Kristen Doute into this?
Yeah.
Who do you think you are?
She's getting way big for her britches, dude. She's getting too cocky. And that's where Doute has done an exceptional job of staying her usual emotions when it comes to this stuff. She's done a really good job of not diving in all the way. And playing as neutral as she can, trying to. That's the funniest part when this scene breaks down. Is old Doute would have jumped on the table and like went in. She's not doing all those things, but like before we get there, just to point out again with Nia, she's starting to call things out too. The fact that Janet focuses on everyone else's relationship, but we never hear about hers, and she's like, interesting. I'm like, there you go. Start to dig a little bit.
Piece it together.
We like that. Jasmine says to Doute, it's like, what's going on with Hawaii? It's like, it sounds like there's some surprise. Zach told me there's a surprise coming. I was like, what the hell? Zach, like, shut up, man. Like, we love you. But
if you're going to tell somebody who's going to Hawaii who you know is going to be around the person who's going to be surprised, you have to go all in. Like,
tell her what's going on.
If you're going to just present a surprise, she's going to start asking about it.
Just spill the beans.
You need to just spill the full beans. So all then beans. At least she knows, like, yeah, it's still going to get back to you if she is to somehow like unveil the secret to Doute before we even go to Hawaii. Then that's kind of, it's definitely on Jasmine, but it's kind of on Zach too. And then it's okay. But if she's going to do something like this, this is fully on Zach. Like, you got to go all in or pull all out. Yeah, those are your two options. Yeah, it is. Yeah, those are the options.
Such is life, you know? But
Can't just tease, you know?
Michelle, oh God, Michelle starts the drama off because she brings up the fact that people are talking about my boyfriend and who he boinked, staring directly at Doute. And it's like,
This is fucking
calls her
insane.
out. And she blames Doute for it. Doty's like, whoa, 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 what the fuck? Like, I had nothing to do with that. And she reiterates, it's like, I am not getting involved in anybody's relationship. And she hasn't. All
She really
season long,
hasn't.
she's been thrown
She had
under
a
the bus.
housewarming party and she invited her friends.
I know. So it's crazy to me. And we get a cut scene in a confessional, and Zach's like, me, I said that. I pointed it out. I told Jesse. Doty just always takes the rap for it. And out of left field, out of fucking nowhere, Janet decides to get involved. And she was like, what'd she say? You went behind her back and said she was having, or implied she was having an affair. It's like, first and foremost, Doty, during that dinner last season, when all of that came out, and she said, you have a boyfriend for a year, was antagonized the entire dinner. Got fed up, stormed off, and pulled at Doty and yelled some shit out. That was true, by the way. So for Janet to be up in arms, it's like, yeah, okay, Michelle cheated. Why is Doty the villain here? Because you guys were poking and prodding, and she just said something that's 100% true. But now she's going to get in trouble because of what? Because you like Michelle better? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's unbelievable. And the other thing that with Michelle, when she's talking about Jenna, and she's talking about why is she now she's going to start coming around. This is just her big moment. Jenna's been around since the VPR days. Nobody knew who Michelle was until last year. So like, let's pump the brakes on that one. And again, Zach is the one who did it. Zach set it up. Doty was just having a housewarming party and invited her friends. She invited all of her friends that live nearby. You guys were all invited, as were her actual friends. Jenna's one of them. That's really just how it worked out. Doty's not involved in this. And if Doty says, I didn't say anything or do anything, then she didn't say anything or do anything. She's the ultimate stands on business. If she did something a little nefarious, if she went around your back, which, you know, last year,
to it.
She didn't really go behind your back to say that. She said it right to your face. Then she's going to cop to it right away. So again, why are we doing this? Why are we poking the bear? Michelle, I know you're at a really weird place with your mom, or is it her mom or grandmom? I think it's her mom. Yeah.
It's her mom. It's Isabella's grandma.
I was confused about now we've got Luke's grandmom. So yeah, so I know you're going through a lot with your mom. You're going through a lot with Jesse. Fine. You can kind of somewhat get a little bit of a pass on there because
I give her a pass.
Kind of see it where it's, you know, it's Doty's party, but Janet getting involved. What are we doing here?
Like, she just saw an opportunity.
Your head has gotten so big that you think that you're impervious to these things. You are okay because you can hold your own with people like Nia, who are very nice and will get emotional. You are okay because you can hold your own and play, you know, different corners here and there with people like Danny and Jasmine and a couple other people. Fine, whatever. You're not really going to try to pull Doty into this, right? Like, you think you can take her on? I don't think so.
No, it's not going to work out well for her. If Doty decides to actually get activated and go in on her, it's not going to work out how she wants it to.
It's going to be a disaster.
The craziest part is the hypocrisy of it all. It's like, you're getting pissed off at other people for digging into relationships, quote unquote. And it's like, that's all you do. You don't have a life outside of trying to ruin other people's lives, but that's what you get mad at other people for. And Doty being Doty gets to a point and she's like, fuck this, fuck you, I'm out of here, I'm not doing this shit. She gets up and Janet's like, yeah, take her to go, boss. She's yelling in the restaurant, causing a scene, but Danny's the issue for getting upset at the bar the other night. But let's not talk about Janet and the scene that she's currently creating. And Nia starts crying because Nia's nice and Nia doesn't know how to handle this because she's fed up with the whole thing. And Janet calls her out. It's like, she always cries when it's intense. It's like, what the fuck? Why is she catching a stray? Who is this monster at the end of the table?
Why is it intense? Why didn't we just let Michelle fight her own battle? If Michelle has an issue with Doty for doing that, for inviting Jenna to her party, let them have it out. Why is Janet even getting involved? And Janet takes the side of Michelle's been through so much with Jesse and nobody's helping her out. I haven't seen you help Michelle out the entire time. You just saw an opportunity to insert yourself and then get really loud and get louder than the whole table and start spewing your nonsense. That's all that's happening here. You're not standing up for Michelle. You're just trying to get yourself a little bit of airtime, and we can all see it. And again, this is setting yourself up, because if you're going to do this and then do a blank apology, you're not going to be in a good spot.
No, and what you're doing is getting Nia activated, because Nia stands up and tells Janet to go fuck herself. I was like, hell yeah. Say it again. Say it louder. Bang the table and say it.
Yep.
And Janet's only response, she's running out of material. Because as Nia's leaving, she's like, well, my husband's not grabbing asses. It's like, again, Jasmine's
Shut
fine with
up.
Danny now. That doesn't hit at all. You're just trying to spread false information at this point, and you are officially the most miserable person in the world. And all this is projection because your husband's a fucking dud. You're a loser, and nobody likes you guys. So you're just projecting and lashing out. But let's get to field day, which no matter how old you are, because you can tell by the energy, like when they run across the line with it doesn't matter how old you are, field games is always fun. And you always
a
get
good
into
time.
It. Yeah, it's always a great time. Jenna's there.
Shout out Blue and Blue Day.
Yeah, go light blue. But
we're so drunk.
Oh, we were hammered, dude. We were hammered for Blue and Blue Day. On our high school field day, we
practiced afterwards.
Blue tights. Oh, we did a baseball practice. I remember that. Didn't we bring a water bottle of vodka into the outfield?
We did, and the coaches understood what we were doing.
They understood.
It was just practice. All we had to do, I think we just did like
batting practice. Yeah,
I don't think we did anything else.
And I think Sadie swung and missed at 5.
Oh god, yeah. And somebody else didn't show up to practice, and that was a big thing because he fell asleep in your car.
Oops. I did. That wasn't me, by the way. I wasn't.
It wasn't you. It wasn't you. We were both there. We were both there. We were ready.
In my car.
I think our season was technically over, but we had that stupid state tournament.
Oh, the state tourney. That's exactly what it was. Yeah,
we weren't allowed to actually play in the state tournament for whatever reason. Holy
shit. I forgot about that one. Yeah, dude, that's a miracle that we made it through practice. But you guys all remember high school, right? You guys did that too, right?
God, high school, right, guys?
It's astounding that I became an alcoholic. I don't know how that happened. But back to field day, Jenna is there. And Michelle thinks that Jenna's there because she boinked Aaron and now she wants to be close to Aaron. No, nobody wants to get close to Aaron. Jasmine invited her. Jasmine invited her.
Like, why don't we start like asking why Sheena's there and Brock? How about that? Why don't we start asking those questions?
Why are these
Jenna being there actually makes sense because she's friends with everybody, but also this is a TV show and she is now involved in a lot of the things going on. So yeah,
she needs to be there.
For her to be there.
Why are the VPR rejects there?
Yeah, why are we doing this with Brock, who I'm thankful him and Sheena didn't really get a whole lot of airtime here. No, we didn't really see a lot from them. So hopefully, they did actually have some lines and they were just cut at the editing because they can see how upset we are with that. That's what I'm hoping anyway. But Jenna being there, again, she's friends with all of them. We've known her for a while.
We also don't care. Like, okay, great. Jenna, like, what are we doing? And that's just enough. It's again, like, I know Michelle's going through a lot. I'm giving her a lot of passes this season because of that. And like, even here, but it's like, there's too many false allegations being thrown around willy-nilly at this juncture, and I don't care for that.
Very willy-nilly. This is a very willy-nilly show.
Willy-nilly season, and that's dangerous. What I don't care for, and what I knew it, and it's the least surprising news ever. Janet hates field games. I hate this stuff. I don't. All right, stick in the mud. Shocker. Go sit on the fence.
I didn't play sports when I was growing up.
No shit. Yeah, that tracks. But Brittany and Janet sit down to have a conversation, and it's just about the divorce and everything. We get Jax playing the victim again, and Brittany's retelling of it. And then Janet brings up the ring thing again. Why are we talking about this allegation about the ring so many times? It's just, it's all so moved thirsty. On. It's so fucking done thirsty. With it. We are, and it's so fucking annoying. And I also love that Jesse and Jason were talking all this shit about tug of war.
Yeah.
And they lost. They got smoked. And it's like, well, I slipped. You didn't slip. You're just very weak. And you're a weak.
Yeah. You have vanity body, buddy.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think you lost to Brock.
Brock was just like, I will give him credit there. Like, Brock was just dragging them by that rope.
Yeah.
He's a strong guy.
He's a strong Australian rugby guy. So
yeah, that makes sense.
You're going to lose that 10 out of 10 times. We've never claimed that he wasn't athletic. So
no, I do believe him to be an athlete. He's just he doesn't need to be on the screen.
I mean, I do doubt that he did NFL tryouts. I don't think that
I know he did. He did. We looked into that. It was like
Are we sure it
Jacksonville,
wasn't
I
like a
think.
Vince Papale type of thing? Like you're watching
It may
Invincible
have
and it
been like, I don't think it was to that extent of like a
was the
walk-on tryout.
Patriots or something, wasn't it?
I thought it was the Jags, but regardless, I think it was not a open invitation. I think it was like, okay, if you're a scout and you have some people that you want to get in front of us, it's like an
Yeah.
open tryout for select people. But I don't think that they were like, oh, Brock Davies, we need to check this guy out. I think an agent who knew him was like, oh, this guy played rugby. He's a friend of mine. Like, he's going to come out. I think it was one of those setups.
It kind of seemed like the like Jax is going to get a job in Tampa working for
As
the
a hockey
Tampa Bay
coach.
Lightning.
Yeah, sure, dude.
Yeah.
That would work out well. He would get knocked out on day one. That'd be so funny though to watch him try to interact with like actual hockey guys.
Yeah.
The toughest motherfuckers on the planet.
Yeah.
But we get an appearance from our favorite jeweler, the exclusive Bravo jeweler. Apparently, I can't talk. My God. Exclusive Bravo jeweler, Kyle Chan. Luke goes to pick up the ring and lets us know that he's struggling right now because his grandmother has cancer. It's not going great. So he's got a lot on his mind. He's trying to focus on the engagement to kind of stay those feelings for a little bit because he's struggling. I appreciate the vulnerability, pal.
Yeah, good vulnerability. Apparently him and Kyle Chan actually did talk on some sort of podcast, I don't know which one it was, about their love of lizards, because I did think it was very odd.
The gecko?
That he was like, yeah, as far as Kristen knows, I'm just dropping off my lizard to have Kyle Chan take a look at it.
Which to others would be suspicious, but to them it's like, oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, but apparently Kyle Chan does love lizards of all kinds, so that's okay. That makes a ton of sense. So good for him.
A whole lot of sense.
I just love the idea of every time, because of how many times Bravo people, they get engaged, then they break up, they get engaged again. I would love it if every time we go back to Kyle Chan, his store is just like a little nicer, a little bigger.
It's just getting a little better because all these rings he's selling and then they return. So that's the best part is he sells them. He probably buys them back for like 50%. He's just making all this money from Bravo couples that were doomed from the beginning. I don't think that's Luke and Doute. They're legit. I'm team Luke.
No, they're legit. That's different.
Yeah. But we got to check in with Janet and Jason before the trip. Obviously. Yeah, of course we do. Because they're talking. And at the very least, Janet's like, I do owe Nia an apology. I went in. It ends with a but. And that's what bothers me. It's like, I need to apologize to her. But it's like, no, you are so out of line. She was trying to be uninvolved in that whole thing.
Yep.
And then you wanted to drag her in because she was crying. Because you're such a dick. She started to cry when she wasn't involved. And then you got her involved. She told you to go fuck herself. And then you made a comment about her husband. Like,
I just don't understand in what world any healthy, normal, mentally stable couple would have that conversation about Janet and how she's going to use the fact that she was a little drunk and she had a little bit too much to drink before she did all of that.
That's crazy.
How anybody is going to sit there, even if you're going to be strategic about the show, how Jason is going to sit there, or even Janet, who seems to be pretty aware of what's going on. Sure. How are you going to sit there and go through all of this and then say, maybe we don't use that excuse, because it will be a really hypocritical and very bad look. The most
hypocritical,
because we are currently going through a whole storyline where we're calling out Danny for his drinking. Are we really going to open ourselves up to that? That's just stupid. It's just fucking dumb. I don't even know. I want to say it's arrogant, thinking that like you're going to get away with it and they're not going to question it.
It's no foresight,
but it's fucking dumb as hell. You're going after Danny for drinking this whole season. You're really going to go and play that card right now to Nia, right to her face, and say, I'm really sorry. I drank a little bit too much, and hope that it doesn't open up something. I know there is a chance, because of how we've seen these things play out on this show, that Janet would get away with it in the cast. But how's that going to look to the audience? Like, you are pretty cognizant of how this is going to work for audience play. You are in the message boards. You probably have a couple of burners. Maybe they're not as apparent as Jax's are, but they are out there. You are very aware of what's going on and how the audience feels about you. This should have just set off so many alarms in your head. Like, fuck, maybe I just say I got caught up in the moment. Maybe I just say I'm kind of annoyed and I'm just a little fed up. And you know what? You were collateral damage. Don't bring the drinking into it. How dumb are you?
Very. Like I said, it's lack of foresight mixed with arrogance. That's what it is. She's too big for her britches right now, and she is waiting to be knocked off of that high horse. Exactly. And that's where Doty's going to come in. And I need Doty to deliver on that one. She's been so chill for 2 years now. We haven't had a real Doty blow up. It's time. We all
It's
need
time.
it. Your audience
It
needs
is time.
Let's get to this scene with Jax and Brittany. Jax is at the lunch table waiting for Brittany to get there. And again, he's like, we have to talk at some point. Like, she is the mother of my child, and I haven't even seen my kid yet.
Sure.
It's like, yeah, because you haven't tried. So we don't give a fuck. You're the one that's going to get Botox instead. Your first priority should have been calling Brittany until she answers the phone and being like, hey, I don't care if you're there. I need to see my son. That would have been the correct response, but you didn't do that. So now you're playing the victim that you haven't seen your kid. He calls Brittany a bunch of times, doesn't answer the phone. Brittany calls him back. Hey, where are you? I'm not coming. I love this. This is good for Brittany. She's standing her ground and she needs to. I guess she got a slew of DMs from the night prior.
I wish that we saw them.
I do too, but I wonder if it's at a point now where she's trying to protect. At some point, she needs to protect that kid because that's where she's falling short, is the fact that that kid's been on screen so much. So if it's that, where this is something that he can see down the road and that's what she's thinking, great. Because the kid needs to be not involved at this point. It's pretty gross. But the DMs are talking about how lit he was the night before. He was all over a bunch of girls. Jax's big defense is, I went home at 11. It's like, just because you went home at 11 does not mean that you weren't a scumbag and hammered at the bar prior.
Yeah.
And that's what these DMs are. And that's the other thing, is there's way too much evidence against you with your history and your past. And then your energy when you got out of rehab is exactly the same as when you went in.
Yeah.
His defense is so dumb because he's like, it's not her problem anymore. Like, she doesn't need to worry about what I'm doing. She's not allowed to. It's like, guess what? Because you share a child and because she is going to get full custody and decide when and when you cannot have visitation rights, it is actually all of her business what you're doing. Because she needs to know that you changed so that she feels good enough to let you see your kid, that you're not going to put him in a bad situation because you're a piece of shit. So all of this has to do with her, actually. And the fact that she's still on business here, big kudos.
Big kudos to Brittany. The fact that he's not immediately getting out of that facility, I'm not calling it rehab anymore.
No,
I refuse to do it. They all do. Everybody
or
else
the resort.
We're
We
calling
call it the resort.
The fact that you got out of the 30-day resort and didn't immediately just start groveling, didn't immediately just shut the fuck up and hope that Brittany is going to offer some sort of olive branch when it comes to seeing your son. And that you did all of these other things that we saw last week, got your haircut, got your Botox, went back to your bar, all of those things. You don't deserve to see your kid. That's the thing. Like, you keep bitching and moaning about it. And every time that you're on camera and every time that you're around your friends, that's all you talk about is how sad you are. But we know what you're doing. You're putting it on Brittany again, saying she's not letting me see Cruz. You're not doing anything to allow her to feel comfortable to let you see your son. That's how it goes. And if you keep bitching about it and complaining about it and not making any changes, then why would she? Like, she has all the rights in the world to not do that. We have it well documented on Bravo, on camera, all of the horrendous things that you've done. So you don't deserve to see your kid. If you if you changed your tune and you were somewhat humble, ate some humble pie, as you like to say on your burner account, which I really do hope is just a parody account, the Justice for Jax thing.
That shit's nuts.
If you just did something right and shut the fuck up, maybe we'd be like, all right, fine, like, let him see his fucking kid. Like, okay, it seems like at least he's taking some accountability. Fine, go ahead, that's fine. But you're not. You're just not doing anything. So, like, why would you think the audience is going to be on your side? No. And especially the face that you make after she hangs up and you're like, well, that's that. It's like, okay, you're just going to move on with your day.
He hangs up on her and says, well, that's that. Yeah.
You're just going to move on with your day. You're going to go back to your weird little shitty condo next to Schwartz's, see if he wants to come over to throw something back and just decompress, talk about how bad Brittany is, then try to tell him how bad his marriage was. Whatever you're doing, I don't care. I just simply don't care, and I don't need to see it. So I'm happy you're not going on the cast trip. And you can say that it was your choice. It's not your choice. You were told, whether it's producers, whether it's, I don't know, maybe Hawaii still has a ban on you because you stole sunglasses.
He's probably not allowed to leave the state of California for some reason.
I think that's probably true. Hawaii could also be one of those quirky states that has weird bans, and maybe he's just not allowed back in Hawaii. But it's not your decision. Yep. It's not your decision. So don't try to paint it that way because we know better.
100%. But let's check into the hotel. We're in Maui. Now, Zach was upgraded to the presidential suite.
Yep.
Your take on this? Should Zach have given the presidential suite up right away? Or did he play it right by delaying it?
He played it right by delaying it.
I agree. And then Luke gets
Yep.
mad. I'm like, no, this is the right move.
So this is where I was like, Luke, all right, you got to chill out a little bit, because Zach did say, and I guess Luke wasn't privy to the conversation, so that's not really
I guess
his
he could have
fault.
relayed it to Luke, but you also don't want to be sketchy.
Somehow,
And then Doute
you don't want to be
sees.
sketchy, and he's standing right next to Kristen, as he should be. You're walking around with her. You don't really have this one-on-one or, private time that you can have somebody pull you aside right then and there. Like, I get it. You want the presidential suite. You'll get the presidential suite. But also, who's in that suite? Jesse. So right now it's Jesse and the two of you. So yeah, you can't do it right then and there. It's too suspicious. You've already done enough if you're Zach to raise a few eyebrows, telling Jasmine that there's a big secret, telling other people what's going on. Right now, as far as Luke knows, only 3 people in the world know what's going on.
Yeah.
I don't think that's true anymore, but Zach is doing yourself a favor, or doing you a favor at this point, by not immediately handing over the keys. Like, hey, why don't you guys stay here? You're trying to get pregnant. I think the presidential suite would be good for you. Like, what? Like, how would he spend
I don't know how you sell it. That's my whole point.
There's no way to sell it to somebody like Doute, who is an investigator, who is a detective, and who is always trying to figure out something.
She would sniff it out. Between that and then what happened at the Mexican restaurant, she'd be like, something's up.
She'd know immediately what it was. I think
Honestly,
there would be no doubt in her mind what was going on if that were to happen right then and there. No, I get it. Luke did say it in his confessional. It's not like we saw a sidebar where he pulled Danny aside and said, why is he not giving me the presidential suite? Like, he did it in his confessional, which happened afterwards. So I'll give him a pass.
I'll give him a pass too, because he's dealing with a lot and he's obviously nervous about this whole thing. I just was curious if he thought that, whose team you're on. I'm team Zach on that one.
For sure.
Aaron makes an appearance. Somebody told me I was pronouncing his name wrong in the comments. It's like,
oh, really?
Shit. Aaron is his name. I know it's Aaron. I'm not an idiot, but Aaron is there, and he's softer than baby shit. Like saying things like, they get to the room. Michelle's like, so how you feel? He's like, oh, I feel like I can breathe after seeing Jesse. And now I'm like away from him. I'm like, can you just say to her, to give her some kind of confidence in this whole thing? Like, hey, it's not great, but I'll always like suffer through it for you. It's not a big deal. I'm not gonna cause a scene. Like, just be cool.
who I always think of in these types of situations is, and I can't remember his name. Do you remember Ariana's boyfriend's name?
Daniel, right?
Dan. I think it's Dan. Yeah. The way that he handled that San Francisco trip at the end of VPR, when Tom was there and all of that shit was going down,
and he was just quiet and mellow.
He was just quiet, mellow, and Tom even came over and said, I really want to meet him and I want to talk to him, and he just was not having any of it. That's how you handle a situation like this. That is exactly, and I know Ariana and Michelle are very, very different people, but if you're going to be the boyfriend of an ex, or whatever situation you're in that it's wacky as hell because Bravo is going to force you guys to be together to see if there's some drama, that's how you handle it. As long as you clear things with Michelle, and if you want to get away, you want to go on fucking windsurfing lessons or whatever to get away from everybody, that's fine, as long as it's cleared with Michelle. I don't want to see you whining about it and see that you're scared, because guess again, what's going to happen? Jesse's going to watch it back and be like, wow, I've got so much power over this guy and I barely did anything.
This guy's terrified of me.
That's going to change based on the cliffhanger. But even before then, he was terrified of you. So that's going to give him so much more power, and he's going to have the upper hand. If you want to have any semblance of a normal life in this weird little throuple, that's what you have to do. You just have to grin and bear it and move on. Yep.
Toughen up. But let's get to the pool. Jason swimming gave me the ick. He's kicking his little tootsies. I didn't like that. Danny and Jason are talking to each other, and it's awkward. And I do like this move. Like, should we just do it now? It's like, yeah, I'm cool with that. Let's hash this out in the pool, see how this whole thing goes. They call Janet and Nia over. Janet apologizes out of the gate. It's too late. Nia's got walls up now, and she's hesitant. And she's like, I'm sorry. And like you said earlier, this defense is wild that she went this route. I had way too much to drink, and Nia's in it now. She goes, oof, that early in the night? I'm like, boom, fuck yeah.
Pop her again.
Yeah.
Get her again.
Keep going. And she blames the margaritas. They're really strong. I had a shot, this, that, the other. I shouldn't have yelled. It's like, you shouldn't have drank so much, Janet. Do you have a problem? Do you have a problem, Janet? Should we keep going and hammering that one down? And again, Danny apologizes, not for what he said. He said, I'm sorry for bringing it up in that setting. I'm like, good. Keep doing
Hold
that.
on to that. Hold on to that.
So
because eventually what's going to happen, this is now the third time that you've done this, they're going to unravel. They're going to say, why do you keep saying it like that? Are you not apologizing for what you said?
Correct.
Then you have free guidance to just go ahead and do it. You go ahead and you bop them and you get them again and get them again. And Nia's in a much better place where she's going to be able to stand with you, because I do think that they've obviously had conversations about this behind closed doors, off camera. They're in a much better place where they can handle it. Like, they're going to keep coming after us. We do have to have a united front. We can't just immediately buckle and start apologizing. This is how we're going to handle it. So eventually, it's not going to be your fault if they ask questions about your apology. They're going to ask for some more clarification. You go ahead and you let them have it. Yep.
Exactly. It's a great setup. And they agree somewhat to forgive and move on. I think it's like, obviously with 100 grains of salt, like they're not actually moving on. Nia goes to a confessional, say, I'm skeptical. My guard will forever be up now. It's like the fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. And they're like, hey, well, thanks for not disinviting us. And Nia's like, look, we'd never do that. Janet's like, well, I would. No one laughs. It's like, yeah, you would. And she's like, I wouldn't do it to you. It's like, yeah, you would.
All Janet's going to do, and we kind of saw this in the mid-season trailer and the preseason trailer. She's just going to set her sights on Kristen, because now she's got a new person to go after, and she's going to try to ride for her friend Michelle or whatever she's going to like pose it as. I don't know what it's going to be, but she's going to have somebody in her crosshairs. That's how Janet operates. So if she's truly going to move on from this, and she's not going to call out Danny anymore, she's not going to call out Nia anymore, at least for this trip, she's going to have somebody else that's going to be new in her crosshairs, which the Kristen thing's been boiling for a long time. Kristen just hasn't been, she hasn't really been provoked, and she's also not doing any provoking. She's just kind of living in her own little world.
And yet she keeps getting dragged into shit.
We love it.
So funny. She's so mellow, and she keeps getting poked.
I just hope it happens after the engagement, because if it happens after the engagement, Kristen's going to have so much power.
Oh, I know.
She's going to have so much just going on.
Super Saiyan Doute.
Oh, man, she's going to Kamehameha the shit out of that.
I am looking forward to it. To no surprise of anybody, Aaron catching a ball is as cringy as Aaron throwing a ball.
Dude, it was such a quick little thing.
I still was like, oh, God. Oh, God. Like, oh, no.
What are you doing?
Now, with that whole situation, though, Jesse obviously is still thinking that Aaron was the other half of the infidelity. Now, when he said he would expect Aaron to call him, I don't fully disagree. Not about
in a normal setting for sure.
Yeah,
but in the setting that him and Michelle have created, I don't think it would work.
I think it's not about the Michelle part. I think that you call because of the child involved, and I think that's
I agree,
because like in my experience, like Poppy's stepdad, when it was early on, called me, and we have a great relationship, and he was super respectful. We had a great conversation, and I was like, you know what? I really appreciate the phone call, so we could talk about
this man around my child. Yeah,
I did. It meant the world to me to be like, you know what? Thank you for talking to me. I love your relationship with my daughter as well, and I appreciate the phone call.
That's what I'm saying in a normal. And I wasn't saying that that Aaron would need to call Jesse to clear the air about the Michelle of it all. What I'm saying is Jesse and Michelle have created such a toxic environment around them, and unfortunately for Isabella, it includes her. So if I'm Aaron, I'm a little apprehensive to call Jesse based on how toxic he's been with Michelle. Maybe let the air clear a little bit. Like, yes, I know that this could be too little too late, but the way that things were portrayed, and obviously you're still doing your investigative journalism when it comes to when we started hooking up, when we started dating, was it emotional? Was it this? Was it that? I didn't feel comfortable doing that. And he probably, we don't know. Maybe he asked Michelle, do you think I should call Jesse? Do you think we should try to clear this up?
Doesn't strike me as the guy that did that.
He doesn't strike me as the guy, but I don't know for sure, so I can't say for sure.
Yeah, I don't want to bash him.
We're not really sure what's going on there. We haven't seen a lot about him. I don't like him particularly, but
I don't care for him
a bunch.
But I don't want to throw him under the bus for no
I don't want to throw him completely under the bus because we don't know what those conversations were like. And again, it's Jesse and Michelle. He could have asked Michelle, and she said, "Fuck him. I don't want him to know anything." And then what are you supposed to do? Like, man to man, then you have that. I don't know. Just get Scott as a mediator. Both of you put your hands on Scott's chest. You try to transfer some energy and try to get him emotional at some point, and then you kiss. Yeah, that's what you do.
And everything's cool. That's what they should have done.
That's all we need.
I mean, that's pretty much the episode. You see Luke scrambling a little bit, and Doty's like, what's going on? He's going through it, and I think it's a combination of nerves and worried about his grandmother. So he's all over the place. I'm sure he'll rein it in, and I'm sure once they are engaged, he'll take a deep breath and And I'm looking forward to that. And it's just clear that the Aaron and Jesse stuff's going to pop off. Jesse's going through his issues with Aaron, commenting on Isabella and how much he spoils her. And the big underlying thing is he the second half of the cheater puzzle?
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to be addressed next episode. We've been getting that cliffhanger the entire season. So I'm glad we're finally going to address it.
Yeah.
As far as what comes from that, I don't know what to predict.
We don't know.
If we're being honest. I don't know how that's going to go. I don't know how Aaron's going to handle it. And that's going to be really, really important, I think, is how he handles this whole thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see how that goes. And if he was, in fact, the other man. But let's get to some questions.
First one up here from Destiny Mitchell, a little crossover question. Whose produced drama moment was worse, Janet at this dinner or Alexis's from OC? Alexis's from OC.
Alexis will always hold that crown. Yeah, brutal. From Casey L. Fowler, why can't Jason forgive Danny? Literally, what did Danny do? I don't know, man. I don't fucking know.
Danny didn't really do anything to him. He's just talking about his wife who's been in his business. So tit for tat, if you will. I don't really understand what the issue is.
Yeah, I don't either.
From Meg's Valentine, would you have liked the other girls to speak up at the dinner, or was it a lost cause because of Janet?
A lost cause.
It's a lost cause for one, but also, and I'm going to point this out every single time, Brittany never fucking speaks up. She just
Brittany
simply
is
doesn't.
a terrible
She is such
friend.
a bad friend. She is such a bad friend, and she always holds on to this. I'm friends with both of them. What do you want me to do? It's like, speak up when you see some fucking injustice. When you see your friend Janet, who's now done this 50 times, going after other people, you'll sit with Janet afterwards and say, why did you do that? Or why did you do that? You never speak up in the moment. And it looks like you're a terrible friend. And that's why people like Zach, people like Nia, you are, but people like Zach and Nia are going to come to you and say, I feel like you don't like me anymore. I feel like you take Janet's side, because it looks like you do, and you do. So Brittany's the one I will call out. The other ones, I think it is a lost cause because it's Janet, but Brittany's the one that I always hone in on those situations.
Yeah, it's easier to do that. Oh, I'm going to read this one because we got a pronunciation, which we always appreciate.
Hell yeah.
From Jocelyn Thibert. So we've been saying Josie Thibert. It's Jocelyn Thibert. That's how it's pronounced. Jocelyn Thibert here. And I like that she did it in parentheses, T-bear. Yeah, dumb it down for us always.
T-Rex, but a bear.
Yeah, T-bear. Oh, shit.
Yeah, that's fucking
scary.
That's
an
crazy
animal.
combination. That's actually Jurassic Universe coming out next summer.
Coming out this fall, Jurassic Universe and the T-bear. Where were we? Did the boys get together remind you of Louis Weird Boy Beach video? 100%.
Yes.
Same energy.
Exactly.
Absolutely
what it is.
The same energy. Let's do two more.
Claire Archibald asked, was it just me or did you skip past the bro session? It was very cringy. No, I watched it. I watched it very intently.
Tongue in cheek.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do one more.
I just knew that I was going to find some tidbits to make fun of.
Yep. Let's see. Okay, this is going to end on. From Miranda Ann 412. Does anyone actually like Janet besides Janet? Jason. No, Jason doesn't even like her.
I don't even think Jason likes her, honestly.
He puts up with her.
No. It is kind of interesting, and I'm not just saying it as a Janet hater. If you can point out one scene to me in which Janet was sitting with one other person and it seemed like it was just a fun situation to be in, and it seemed like both parties were having fun, not just Janet, I'd be all ears. I can't think of one. So I don't think anybody actually likes her.
She was the only one having fun.
Correct. Yeah.
Well, there you have it, folks. But we'll see where this goes. We're still in on the Valley. I know we shit on it, but that's what we do here.
We have to shit on it, though, because that's and people get mad at us because they're like, you guys have a platform and you're not doing this or that or whatever. It's like, well, like, we are shitting on it, but we're shitting on the people that need to be held responsible for what we're watching. And that would be Jax, and that's the producers. So anytime that we see something like that, we're going to call it out. It doesn't mean, again, that we hate the show and we think it's going nowhere, blah, blah, blah. We're just seeing it how it is, and we're going to call it out. That's really what it is. But at the end of the day, we have enjoyed the show a lot in the past. We don't want it to go anywhere. We want it to be better.
We want it to be good.
If we're not going to call it out for the shortcomings, then what are we supposed to do here?
That's what we do, man. We're honest. And don't worry, Doute commented on one of our reels when we were ranting and raving about how shitty it is right now and said, please don't stop watching. I'm coming on the pod ASAP, guys. So We told you that before she went into labor. We were trying to get that scheduled. So when
There's a clip of us saying, "Yeah, we don't know what the hell's going on." Kristen's been going back and forth with us, and we didn't really know what to do because the last comment we said was
the
"Great,
like,
we'll have you on the pod," and she just liked it. So we didn't know
what to do.
We didn't know she was going into labor.
She
that
went
day.
into labor. Yeah, that day. So that makes a lot of sense now. But yeah, we're gonna get that figured out when she's ready. Obviously, she's enjoying her time with her new baby.
Hopefully,
So
Kaya can join her. We gotta have the baby on the pod too.
that would be awesome, actually. Luke, Doute, and the baby.
Just get the fat.
I'm down for that. But we'll keep you guys posted on that one. And yeah, you got anything else?
Nope.
Well, that's our show, bros. Gotta go.